بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I remind you to have a sincere intention in your heart, seeking reward from Allah Ta'ala by attending the lesson. Inshallah Ta'ala, we will start. And today, inshallah, we will talk about some of the conditions for a valid prayer. We will talk actually about purification from Najas and how to remove that najas, the najasa. Okay, so inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be talking about purification from najas filth and the manner of removing that. So among the conditions of a valid prayer, for the validity of the prayer, is to be clear of najas filth on one's body, clothing, and place of prayer. So when the person is praying, among the conditions for the validity of his prayer is to be clear of najas filth on one's body, meaning even inside one's mouth or nose, and on one's clothing and place of prayer. What we mean with place of prayer here is that the place that comes in contact with one's body when the person is praying, okay? The part that comes in contact with one's body. They need to be clear from najasa, from najas filth. Now, if the person started praying and while praying, one came in contact with najasa, okay? On one's body or clothing, or what one is carrying, like a rida. Some males, maybe you have seen that, while praying, they have something that is referred to as a rida that they put over their shoulders. Sometimes they cover their head with it as well, and sometimes they just put it over their shoulders. It is referred to as a rida in Arabic, so it doesn't have sleeves. So if while praying, najas filth comes in contact with the person or what one is carrying, like a ridal, which is similar to a shawl, then the prayer becomes invalidated, except, this is if we are saying in non-exempted najas filth, okay? Except if one casts off this najas filth immediately. So we're talking here about a non-exempted najas filth that comes in contact with one's body or what one is carrying while praying. Then the prayer would become invalidated except if one casts it off immediately. Now, what do we mean here? That if it is dry najasa, okay, one shakes it off immediately of one's clothing if the najas filth was dry, or if it was dry or wet and fell on the rida that one was carrying, then in this case, if one removes that rida from one's body immediately. And here we are saying immediately, okay? So one removes that najas filth immediately. This is, as we said, if this najas filth that came in contact with one's clothing or what one is carrying was non-exempted najas filth. What is an example then of exempted najas filth while praying? An exempted najas filth while praying is if the person becomes stained with blood of one's own wound, okay, from one's own wound. Let's say on one's hand, okay, or one's face, for example, one's own wound started bleeding. In this case, while praying, this is considered exempted, okay? So the person's prayer would not be invalidated by that because the blood of one's own wound while praying is considered exempted najas. So the prayer would still be valid because you know that the blood, when the blood is najas, okay? But in the prayer, if it is one's own blood that came out from one's own wound, then it is considered exempted and the prayer would still be valid. Okay, also, it is an obligation to remove the non-exempted najas filth for the validity of prayer. Okay, how is this done? When talking about najas filth, the scholars differentiate between what they refer to as najasa ayniya and najasa hukmiya. So the two are najasa ayniya and najasa hukmiya. What is the difference between these two? Najasa ayniya is najas filth which has discernible characteristics. Okay, it has discernible characteristics, whereas najasa hukmiya, it does not have any more color or smell or odor of this najasa, but it's still there. There's still najasa there, but it is referred to as najasa hukmiya because it no longer has these properties. It no longer has smell, color, or odor. Now, inshallah, we will talk about how to remove each of these types of najasa. We will start by talking about removing the najasa ayniya. So the najas filth, the ayniya, it is removed by removing its entity. Okay, so it is removed by removing its entity and the properties, meaning its color, taste, or odor. How is that done? By using purifying water that is pure and purifying. Only water here, okay? So one cannot use, for example, vinegar. No, what purifies here is water. So the agent of purification here is water. So if it is najasa ayniya, it is removed by removing the entity and its characteristics, its properties, meaning color, taste, and odor. As to the najasa hukmiya, and we said this is the najas filth, which no longer has these characteristics, but you know it is there is najasa there. Like what? Like urine that dried. But you know that there was urine there, and urine is najas filthy. How is this place then purified? The najasa filth is removed, this hukmiya najasa is removed by pouring water over it. All right? By pouring water over that place, then the place becomes clean. This is because it was najasa hukmiya. In this case, the place is purified by just pouring water over it. All right? So we spoke about najasa ayniya and najasa hukmiya. Now, before moving on, I want to draw your attention to something that some people who have not learned these rulings might want to actually remove the najas filth, but instead they spread it even further. How is that? For example, if a child vomits, all right, and vomit is najas, okay, it has the judgment that it is najas, filthy. So if, for example, somebody vomits on the floor and you can see the entity of it. So what kind of najasa is this where it has a smell? You can see the entity, it has a color. So it is najasa ayniya. When we want to remove it, if I just go and pour a little bit of water on it and it does not remove, inshallah. Yeah, the properties I said are color, taste, and odor. Odor meaning smell. Yes, okay. So in this case, the vomit that is on the floor, it has still the entity and the odor and probably the color. So it is najasa ayniya. If a person just pours a little bit of water over it, in this case, they are just spreading it more. Okay, so what one can do in this case is, for example, not to use, okay, in this case, not to use water first, but use, for example, paper towel or toilet paper, I don't know what you call it, tissue, all right, and remove the physical entity. Remove the physical entity, throw it away in the trash can. So remove the physical entity and wait a little bit until this place, you remove the entity, so you cannot see it anymore, but most likely there's still a smell, okay? So if the person then waits until the characteristics are gone as well, so it has no longer smell, odor, or taste, the characteristics are gone, okay, after a while, so then what kind of najasa is it now? Not عينية, but حكمية. Okay? Because first you used, for example, paper towel or toilet paper and you removed that, but you know that the floor is still stained. You know that there was najasa there and the floor is still stained. Even though the characteristics are gone, it's still najas filthy, but now it is najasa حكمية. So in this case, how did we say, do I purify the floor from it? Now I can just pour water over it, okay? Now I can purify the ground by just pouring water over it because now it was only najasa hukmiyah, the characteristics were gone. Whereas in the first place, if I just poured a little bit of water on it, and the filth was still visible there, and I just poured a little bit, I was just spreading the filth more, okay? Use just water. Use just water. If you want to use soap later on, after the najasa has been removed completely, then if you want to use soap. But first, use just water when you are removing the najas filth, okay? So now we have spoken about najasa ayniya and najasa hukmiya. Now we will talk about najasa kalbiya, inshallah. The najasa kalbiya is najas filth that is from a dog or a pig or a hybrid that bred from both or from one of them, meaning either from the dog and another animal, a pig or another animal, or from both, okay? This najas filth, how is that removed from a dog or a pig? This is removed by washing the najas filthy area 7 times, one of these washes is mixed with purifying soil. So the area that is stained, that is contaminated with this type of najasa, this area is purified by using 7 washes and one of them mixed with purifying soil. And the wash that removes the physical presence of the najas filth is deemed as one wash, even if you needed to do more than one to remove the actual physical entity, even if you actually needed to do more than one wash to remove the physical entity. However, all these washes are counted as one until the physical entity is gone. So then how many more washes do you need to do for the total to be 7? 6 more, okay? So the wash that is needed to remove the physical entity is counted as one, even if you needed to do more. So then you would do 6 more washes, okay? This is the case when it comes to this kind of najas filth, najasa from a pig or a dog. So, subhanallah, it is very important to be careful in these matters. when it comes to removing najas filth, because, you know, as we just mentioned, for the validity of the prayer, one needs to be clear of non-exempted najas filth on one's body, clothing, and the place of prayer. And also what one carries in their pocket. For example, somebody might have a bottle, maybe a bottle of perfume that has alcohol in it, najas alcohol in it. So one needs to remove that. Or maybe one might have in their pocket a tissue that had blood stain on it in their pocket. So before they pray, they need to remove that, okay? So then the last type of najas filth that we mentioned was the najasa kalbiya, and related to the dog or the pig, and we mentioned how to remove it. We said one of the washes would be mixed with purifying soil. One would just mix purifying soil with the water, so the water then becomes murky, okay? And the soil reaches all the part of the area that was contaminated. Now it is, remember when we spoke about water, and we said water is divided into a small amount of water and large amount of water. When removing the najas filth, if I have small amount of water, it is a condition that I pour that small amount of water over the najasa, and that I do not put the najasa inside that small amount of water. Because if you remember from our previous lessons, what did we say about the small amount of water? We said small amount of water becomes automatically najas, filthy, by being in contact with unexempted najas. So by this small amount of water being in contact with non-exempted najas filth, we judge the small amount of water right away as becoming now najas filthy. An example of that is, for example, 1 liter of water. 1 liter of water, is the small amount or big amount? Those of you who were with us in the previous lessons and we mentioned small amount of water and big amount of water, I'll give you a hint. Small amount of water, we said is less than 2 qillas. And we said that 2 qillas is about 191 liters. So if I have a container with 1 liter, is the small amount of water or big amount of water? Small, for sure, small amount of water. Yes, so if I have this 1 liter of water and I have, for example, a piece of cloth that had urine on it, okay? If I have a piece of cloth that had urine on it, if I put that piece of cloth inside that 1 liter of water, in that one container that has 1 liter of water, what happens now to the whole liter of water? It all becomes najas, filthy, because this is small amount of water that came in contact with non-exempted najas filth, and we said then this water becomes automatically najas, filthy, because it is small amount of water. So if I have small amount of water and I want to clean this place from the najas filth, what do? I pour the water on top, okay? Whereas if I have a big amount of water, in this case, we said that if it comes in contact with najas filth, it is judged as still clean, except if it changes by that najas filth. What do we mean by saying it changed because of that najas filth that came in contact with it? Meaning it changed in its characteristics, smell, color, or taste. Okay, so if its characteristics changed because of being in contact with that najas filth, then it's judged as najas, filthy, this big amount of water. Otherwise, it is not. Is it clear? Let me see your questions. In case of the dog's saliva, subhanAllah, we are now in times where so many people are taking dogs to so many places, and to the extent that many are keeping, little dogs and big dogs in their house. And actually, the scholar said if you want to take a dog for for hunting, that is different for hunting. But we're not keeping a dog inside our house like many people do nowadays. Subhanallah. So the saliva of the dog is najas filthy according to Imam al-Shafi'i. Yes. Okay. So it is najas filthy. So, and if the saliva comes onto your body or onto your clothes, this is now considered as najasa from a dog. Okay. Yeah, dear sister who asked about removing the najasa with other than water, rock. This we talked about, dear, when we are performing istinja. Okay. Here, that was when we spoke about clearing oneself after urination or defecation. Okay, dear? So that was when we spoke about using water or something other than water, like a rock, if it satisfies particular conditions. Okay, and you remember we spoke about these conditions in our lesson. So that was in regards to clearing oneself from najasa after urination or defecation. Okay. When I say characteristics of the najasa, I'm talking about these three characteristics, okay? Smell, taste, and color. These are the three characteristics. So when the physical entity of the najasa is gone and the characteristics are gone, you can no longer detect its color, taste, or odor. So, but this place had najasa on it. So now it is referred to as najasa hukmiya, okay? And we mentioned how to purify the area then from the najasa hukmiya.